In the hearing yesterday, the committee also shared evidence that Trump spent the next few weeks after this tweet about it'll be wild, helping plan for rally attendees to march to the Capitol. And the suggestion here was that his call to do so in his speech wasn't impromptu. Like he wanted people to think, or his apologists wanted people to think, well, he just meant let's go to the Capitol as an afterthought. No. That was part of the plan. The committee shared a never-before-seen draft tweet that Trump had seen, encouraging people to march to the Capitol. And that raised the question of whether Trump allies in the White House communicated with rally organizers about this plan. Well, of course it did. I mean, they have to go very slowly. The committee, all the legalities and the niceties and so on and so forth. You're goddamn right. It showed there was cooperation between these scum fuckers from Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and 3%ers and these other treasonous fucking dogs and people inside the White House and people inside the U.S. Congress. This is a vast conspiracy. I mean, it really is. The committee also shared records of conversations among these rally organizers in the days leading up to January 6th. And those were discussing a plan to have Trump call for a march to the Capitol. And in their tweets, they emphasized, or however they communicated, maybe it wasn't tweets, but they were emphasizing this needed to remain secret. Got to keep a secret. And the committee also shared how Trump ad-libbed some of the more violent parts of his speech on the ellipse on the day of the attack. One reference to Mike Pence that was in prepared remarks by this orange filthy prick became 8 references to Pence. And Trump added phrases like this, quote, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong. And let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I'll be right there with you. Brad Parscale, who was a senior Trump campaign aide. The committee shared a remarkable admission of remorse from this asshole after the attack. Parscale wrote, quote, this is about Trump pushing for uncertainty in our country, a sitting president asking for civil war. This week I feel guilty for helping him win. Oh, you little fucker, he didn't win. So, you know, these little pricks like Brad Parscale who are making these little wishy-washy admissions of, oh, I didn't mean, yeah, he's another one. Put him on trial. If he's found guilty, lock this son of a bitch up for the rest of his life. Or hang him, be the choice of the presiding judge, I guess, right? Now, overall, what the committee did yesterday was to connect Trump to the most extreme and violent elements of the insurrection. As far as I'm concerned, they did a goddamn good job of doing it. I don't have any doubt in my mind. Do you? Huh? The committee has argued that Trump had a direct influence on the decision to storm the Capitol, and that he cheered on those brain-dead fuckers who did just that. And the committee also recently said that Trump knew armed protesters were coming to the rally, and he encouraged them to come to the Capitol anyway. What did he say? What did Cassidy Hutchinson say about the guns? He knew they were armed. Well, they're not here to hurt me. You filthy, filthy bastard, you. So according to the committee, the fact that Trump knew they were armed and encouraged them to come anyway, potentially that's a legally perilous position for the Orange Vomit to be in. In the first place, it's against the law to walk around with fucking guns in D.C. anyway. But to encourage this kind of insurrection? So then there was a question, how did so many people become radicalized because of the lie that this filthy fucking Donald Trump was putting out there over and over? Well, anyone who questions that needs to go back and reread Mein Kampf. about Hitler's realization that if you are going to try to manipulate a population, you start with a big lie and you make it so big and so outrageous that it's almost impossible to argue against. And then you keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it over and fucking over and over and over, which is what Trump has been doing for 2.5 years. Well, this committee is particularly interested in unraveling how this mass hysteria, this mass radicalization occurred, which, wound up, we've heard it a million times, the most serious attack on the Capitol since the War of 1812. So, to try to get to that, yesterday they invited someone who said he was swept up in it all. That poor bastard, I felt sorry for him. Stephen Ayers, who sat there, lost his job, almost lost his family. He pled guilty to disorderly conduct related to his activities on January 6th. There was videos showing him coming into the Capitol. And when it was his turn to testify, he talked about how social media, and particularly the orange vomits rhetoric, led poor old Stephen Ayers to believe the election was stolen. And he had decided that he just had to leave his home in Northeast Ohio and attend the Stop the Steal rally in D.C. He said, quote, "I was pretty hardcore into social media. I was hanging on to every word he was saying once I got there." End quote. Ayers said that if he had known that Trump was repeatedly told by rational White House advisors that there was no evidence that the election was stolen, it might have changed the way this little fucker, Stephen Ayers, felt. In his testimony yesterday, he said, quote, "I may not have come down here," end quote. May not? You may not have come down here? You little white prick, you? What are you talking about? I mean, I can't believe this guy's married, had a job. I think he had a kid or two. Said he had to sell his house. How the fuck is he able to do adult things when he makes a statement like that? I may not have come down here if I would have known that he was lying. But this is the problem, truth seekers. There are tens of millions of Americans who, just like this little shit, Stephen Ayers, can be so easily convinced of the big lie. Hitler knew this. Trump knew it. Putin knows it. Every fucking dictatorial scum in the history of the human race knows this. And little old Stephen Ayers, who now appears to be coming out of the ether, maybe, possibly, at least halfway out, I may not have come down here. If he knew that there was no evidence. Notice the qualifier. I may not have come down here. Well, he may have come down here too, right? Stupid fuck. Anyway, Ayers went on. He said when he arrived at the Ellipsis, he didn't plan to march to the Capitol, but he got riled up. By Trump repeating his lies and bullshit about the election being stolen. And Ayers said, it was rhetoric he was familiar with from Trump's tweets. And he said he followed what the president said to do. He said he remembered how he felt at the moment. He said, "I was angry." And he said he decided to leave the whole mess only after Trump tweeted for his supporters to go home, hours after the attack began. But this is how easy it is to get fuckers like this. You put a gun in this fucking Stephen Ayers' hands with Trump exhorting him to go kill somebody, and the son of a bitch will do it. Now multiply that by 100,000 or 1 million. This is what we're facing. This is what we're facing. And then Jason Tatenhove was the other witness, or Tatenhove, I'm sorry. He's a former spokesman for the Oath Keepers. He's now he too now has come out of the ether. He claims to be a critic of the Oath Keepers. And he said that groups like the Oath Keepers thrive off propaganda, particularly, and this is a quote from him, the swaying of people who may not know better through lies and rhetoric and propaganda that can get swept up in these moments. And I'll admit, I was swept up at one point as well, end quote. Well, you miserable little son of a bitch. He was a spokesman for the Oath Keepers. He was an historian. He was designed their websites and shit. He claimed he was a journalist. He's a fucking idiot. But he is not atypical. This is what can happen. This is what happens with every dictator, Nazi son of a bitch. There are millions of people like this, like Tatenhove, and like this miserable fucking Steve Ayers, who after the fact, after everything is, oh, well, I didn't know. Well, I just got caught up in it. Well, you know, I just did what he told me to do. I was swept up. Now, Tatenhove says he knows the alliance between Trump and the Oath Keepers is not a done deal. He says, quote, I think we've gotten exceedingly lucky that more bloodshed did not happen. I do fear for the next election cycle because who knows what that might bring. If a president that's willing to try to instill and encourage to whip up a civil war uses lies and deceit and snake oil, and regardless of the human impact, what else is he going to do if he gets elected again? End quote. Out of the ether, asshole Tatenhove. I don't have any mercy for these fuckers. I'm sorry. I read the book The True Believer 50 fucking years ago, written by Eric Hoffer. Read The True Believer, and then you'll see why I have absolutely nothing but just furious contempt for these scum. To be led into a rat hole by some piece of human waste like Donald Trump, and then to say, well, I got carried away. You got carried away. Right. Now, the next hearing is next week. And the committee let it be known that it's going to focus next week on what Trump did the day of the attack. And there's a whole lot of shit that you and I don't know about that I think is going to be shocking. I really do. And one big accusation this committee plans to make, they've already mentioned this in earlier hearings, is that, quote, Trump never picked up the phone that day to order his administration to help. Rather, it was Pence who was on the phone from a goddamn garage where they had taken to hide him in the Capitol, trying to get the Defense Department or Homeland Security or some fucking body to show up and stop this. Then it never happened. We need to know why it never happened. The capital of the United States is under attack for 3 or 4 fucking hours, and not a single paratrooper shows up, not a single squad of Marines, not a single detachment of Homeland Security personnel, no fucking body. Who put the order in for everyone to stand down? That kind of an order could only come from one fucking person. The orange vomit himself. Even Mike Pence couldn't override that order. And like I mentioned, Cheney also got at more allegations of witness tampering. And that's when she said that after the last hearing, that was the one that Cassidy Hutchinson revealed so much that an unnamed witness who we haven't heard yet was called by Trump. So the committee referred that information to the Justice Department. Ever wonder when this shit's going to stop? It's just, you know, the only way I see it ever really stopping is for Trump to just choked to death on a piece of hamburger meat or something from Big Boy or Burger King, wherever the fuck he gets his food. Just choke to death, you fucker. Spare the country. Man. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.